social media feeds us what we want to hear. It puts us into our echo chambers. And then the next thing you know, we think the other side sucks. They're evil. I hate them. So we're getting into a little political culture type conversation, but I think that this matters for our cycling community, right? And I think that we need leaders that are, forgive me, but I think we need leaders that are going to say bullshit. This doesn't work here. We're humans. We're all the same people. I don't care what you believe, who you believe in. Somebody's going to have to stand up and say that. We're going to have to be kind to one another. If I'm being completely honest, I'm fed up with it. Yeah. I'm fed up with all of it. I'm ready for us all to come together and say, listen, yeah, we believe differently and we may have big differences, but we can come together on a few things and let's just start there.
We're listening to The Underview, an exploration in the shaping of our place. My name is Mike Rush, and today we're going to return to a familiar voice in the world of Ozark cycling. The co-founder of the Rule of Three, Oz Gravel, Arkansas Rural Recreational Roads, and all-around Ozark cycling community ambassador, Andy Chasteen. Andy and I had a chance to speak about a year and a half ago, and he shared a vision for cycling that went beyond sport or recreation. It was a way of connecting people to each other and to this place. Well, if you haven't noticed, a lot has happened since then. While the cycling community in Northwest Arkansas has continued to grow and evolve, our national dialogue has become, well, fractured. But that fracture isn't just somewhere else. That fracture point has now moved through our community, and I would dare say through the cycling community as well. So I wanted to sit down with Andy to have a conversation about his thoughts on the current state of the cycling community here in Northwest Arkansas, the implications of what happened as Bentonville wrestled with the All Bikes Welcome mural controversy, and to get his thoughts on the Ozark Podcast conversations about cycling, to understand, did that change anything? He's also seeing the transition of the Arkansas Rural Recreation Program, the R3 program, to the Ozark Foundation, and what does he expect of that? The thread through all of this is that what's at stake here is more than the future of cycling. It's the heart and soul of Northwest Arkansas. While the community has been tested, I want to understand, are these going to be instruments of belonging, or will they perpetuate further division? Can cycling, which has transformed our region, also help transform how we relate to one another in a time when division threatens to pull us apart? Can it be a place of bridge building and not an accomplice of division? In this conversation, Andy reflects on where we are today, and I'm going to tell you he doesn't hold back. He shares his thoughts about cycling and what that reveals about who we are and how it might help us build bridges across our differences. We talk about leadership and kindness and rural relationships and what it takes for the cycling community to live up to the messages that are painted on our walls, that you belong here and that all bikes are welcome. All right, let's get into it. I have a privilege today of sitting back down with my friend Andy Chasteen and sharing the table. Andy, welcome back. It's great to have you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations about cycling and culture and community. And I was like, I would love to sit back down with Andy and flash forward from when we talked probably a little over a year ago to just sit down and see where you're at. There's been a lot happening in the city of Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas. Probably most importantly, it's almost October in the Ozarks. And so what I consider like almost this little bit of salvation in many ways of being able to, I feel like I've been waiting so long for this kind of, I call this season of Advent, right? I'm waiting for October. So I feel like I'm about to like step into this glorious time of year. I catch us up a little bit on where you're at and what you're thinking about. Where have you been spending your time lately? What's been rolling around in your head?
Obviously, I've been riding my bike a lot because that's what keeps me sane. Every summer, me and Jackie love to go out in the van out west, escape a little bit of the heat, go into the mountains, ride our bikes every day. stay on public lands, not see humans for a little while. It's pretty
nice.
fun. And we've actually been out there quite a bit this summer. So we spent a lot of August in Colorado riding our bikes, and man, just working. And I can work remote. We got Starlink.
I did that this summer.
Dude,
that was amazing.
I know. Like, it really changes everything. Used to, so we've been going out in the van for a long time, but used to, we would like not argue, but argue a little bit out over, we can't stay in this spot because it doesn't have self-service, babe, and I can't get work done. And she'd be like, this is an amazing spot. And I'm like, it is, but we can't stay here. And now we stay wherever we want because I can work anywhere, right? So we can be up on at 11,000 feet somewhere. And so that's been awesome. It's been a nice summer. We actually here too, there was some ups and downs with some temps and stuff, but yeah, life's been good, man.
It's good.
I will say I'm super excited for October, like you said, coming in. We're finally catching a little break in the weather, and we got a big old rainstorm yesterday, so the trails are going to be in nice shape over the next few days. So yeah, man, everything's been good.
Andy, one of the things that I've appreciated, obviously you've been in Northwest Arkansas for a while now, but you love this place, right?
I do.
And
I really do.
I think you have been a part of really shaping the culture and the community of what's happening here in Northwest Arkansas. When we sat down last time, we talked about really, I think, this vision for cycling that you had. That I think one of my takeaways was that you have this desire. It feels, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to just be rooted in this place and to be rooted in community and to do what you can to really figure out how do we create this community where people are welcome and they feel like they belong. And you're doing that through cycling, which is part of, I think, one of the most beautiful ways that I've seen this community grow and evolve in all of that. And I'm just curious, where do you sit within all of that today?
Sure, yeah.
Give me a flavor of where you're at and how you're thinking about that these days.
Yeah, I can't remember I don't know if I told this story our first go around, but I'm going to say it again. So I moved here from a place called Oklahoma City. Obviously, everyone knows that. It's a much smaller cycling community. It's very road centric. There's not a lot of opportunities to get off road for dirt and mountain bike and things like that. You got to drive, things like that. So the cycling community there is much smaller. But one thing that I really loved about that place is that the cycling community was tight. And when you have a small cycling community, it's a lot easier for people to be more tight-knit, volunteer for the weeknight crits, like things like that, right? It's much easier to build a tight-knit community when it's small. But when I moved here, it's big. There are a lot of bike riders here, right? And so one of the first things I noticed here is it's a little bit more compartmentalized. There's lots of different styles of riders here. You've got gravel, you've got a small kind of road scene, but it's here. And then you have how many genres of mountain bikers? You know what I'm saying?
I think there's a new one born every day.
I know, and there's a lot, right? And one thing I noticed is a little compartmentalized. And I'm not this technical thinker, but like through my thoughts, I'm like, how can you get all these people together? It's tough. It's tough. It's a big scene. But, and again, I have a simple monkey brain. And my thoughts were like, how can we just be friendly together? And like, that's where the wave idea came. And I don't know that like my answer to your question would be that I've been thinking about it in new ways, or has it evolved? How long ago did we talk? Maybe a year, maybe a little more, something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's a little better. Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. That's a great question to ask that I don't clearly know the answer to, obviously. But I do know that some things work. And that's bringing people together in one place, no matter what kind of bike you ride. It doesn't matter what kind of bike you ride. So that works, right? And then also the wave, right? There's all these little simple things that can certainly work. And I'm not going to pretend to know all the answers, but I'm going to continue to just pound that into people's brains. And here's a great example. If I wave at somebody out on the trail and they don't wave back, I'm like, hey, wave.
You're going to stalk them a little bit.
I try not to be mean about it, but I'm like, you should, if somebody waves at you and you don't wave back, come on now. Come on.
That's right. You're going to stalk them with kindness.
So like those are like kill them with the kindness. It's interesting. You asked that question. I don't know that I have the answer to that question, but I do know that some simple things really do work.
I think maybe the root behind that is no surprise to anybody that's listening. Our society, our culture seems to be going in the opposite direction.
For sure.
Away from each other, right?
Yeah.
And so I think when you step into creating community, especially around cycling, I think the desire is to be a counterweight to that, right? And yeah, I think I'm curious if you see different challenges or different opportunities maybe than we have in maybe the first 5 years, first 10 years that you've been here. Like, how are we seeing that changing, or do you really feel like cycling can continue to be this space where, yeah, we have an opportunity as a community to step into it together and maybe counteract or be a counterweight to all the voices that would tell us, yeah, that we shouldn't be doing that?
I think it can. I think that we need leaders in our community to buck that trend, because that is a trend right now in our culture, in our societies, even in our communities or whatever. And I'll just come out and say it. I'm a political centrist.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because we live in the biggest melting pot in the history of the world. So if I want to get some things done in life, I'm going to have to compromise with people who don't believe in the same things that I believe in. And I think that should spill over into all works of life, in your church, in your community, in your work, in people who are not willing to compromise on things with people. You're never going to get anything done in life. And I believe that's that way in the cycling community. If you believe different than me, that's okay. Let's figure out where we can start. Okay, let's start somewhere. You and I are both humans. Okay, there's a start, right? We're both dudes. Okay, there's another one. We both love to ride bikes. Okay, there's another one. So you just keep going and you build this consensus until you find that spot where you disagree. And then you're like, okay, where can we figure out how to, and listen, I'm rambling at this point,
No,
but
keep
like,
going.
I think that we have to, our culture has, and a lot of this, it really is social media. Social media feeds us what we want to hear. It puts us into our echo chambers. And then the next thing you know, we think the other side sucks. They're evil. I hate them. And were we like that before social media? I don't remember that. Maybe some were, but I don't think most people were. So we're getting into a little like a political culture type conversation, but I think that this matters for our cycling community, right? And I think that we need leaders that are, forgive me, but I think we need leaders that are going to say bullshit. This doesn't work here. We're humans. We're all the same people. I don't care what you believe, who you believe in. Somebody's going to have to stand up and say that. We're going to have to be kind to one another. And I'm jumping right in here, but
Let's go.
But if I'm being completely honest, I'm fed up with it.
Yeah.
I'm fed up with all of it. I'm ready for us all to come together and say, listen, yeah, we believe differently and we may have big differences, but we can come together on a few things, and let's just start there. Let's start there. But I think that you can overcome that in a workplace. Hell, we can overcome that in the political sphere if we can have some leaders who will stand up and say, this is enough. This is enough. It's enough of this. I thought about that. I rode in from the house. It's like on my regular bike, usually an e-bike, but it's a little bit longer when I ride on the regular bike. And I was thinking about this when I came in. I was like, do I really want to talk about these things? Because sometimes this gets people fired up, right?
Yeah.
Politics really gets people fired up. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. We're going to talk about this. And people may not like to hear what I'm saying, but we're going to have to say enough is enough. I don't hate you. I don't hate anyone for what they believe. Unless it's like evil. That's a different thing. Evil is evil, right? But man, just because we believe in a different tax rate or whether or not, listen, even very polarizing topics like, let's say, abortion, we can still respect each other for believing different things. Can we not? I think we can, okay? And I think that goes for the cycling community too.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's distill it down to that, and we can start there. And I just feel like we can come together on things that we all agree on. And there's a lot of things that we agree on before we start getting to those things that we don't. I don't know, man. I'm fed up. I'm sorry. I want to see people happy in coexisting together in a way that actually brings fulfillment to us. Like I want to see that. And I think we can do that here. I think we can. I think it could be done anywhere, but I think we can certainly do it here if we just have some people who stand up and say, this is it. Come on, let's come together. And I know that sounds, maybe it's more complicated than that, but also maybe it's not. I don't know.
I'll let you just keep going because At this point, I'm going to ask where to sign the petition to get you signed up for city council or something. But
political grandstanding, I'm sorry, and I hate to keep cursing. My mom and dad are going to be like, why do you have to curse? Stop the political grandstanding. Stop attacking even your political opponents. Let's stop attacking them. And if you want to run against someone else who disagrees with you, don't go after them. Say, this is what I will do for you. Or not for you, differently. We're in this weird realm of, if I disagree with somebody, I'm attacking them. I'm going after them. Instead of, hey, maybe I should sit down in private with this person and have a conversation with them and find some common ground. And then we don't have to attack each other in public. And then since we're not attacking each other in public, then the people who are on this side and this side, they're also not going to attack each other in public. It's leadership. It's leadership, right? Because I as a citizen, I'm just a citizen. That's all I am. But if I'm a citizen and I see, let's just say I see the political person that maybe I agree with attacking their political opponent, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to follow that, right? If I see it, we're creatures of you are what you eat, right? You are who you hang out with, who you follow. Back to cycling. Sorry.
I think part of this conversation is
Sorry. Gosh, dang, we got into politics.
Do not apologize. I think part of this is, you've been paying attention to what's been happening in the city around some of the controversy that we've had to deal with the mural and All Bikes Welcome. And so it's irrelevant.
It just immediately devolves.
Yeah.
And you can't have an intelligent conversation about anything because it devolves to name calling. And you're evil. No, you're evil. No, you're evil. No, you're evil. No, let's sit down and talk about it. And if it has to be done with no microphone and no cameras, then that's probably how it should be done. Because oftentimes these microphones and these cameras is when you start grandstanding for your people.
I think part of this is not to rehash the mural conversation, but I think there's some things that you're speaking to directly that were really, to me, they were revealed around maybe the division that I didn't think was as deep as maybe it was.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think I walk away from this past season saying, what do we need to do as a community to build bridges towards each other? Because it feels like every time I turn around, they're like being torn apart or torn down. And I believe strongly in the cycling community as a force in our community that is doing a lot of good and can build bridges. And I think this is part of the question that I have is where we stand now on, and I'll pick on the mural, but
sure,
you could pick on any issue, like you said before. Like, where do we start to think about if we're going to build a community where everybody can belong, and it's going to be centric around art, and it's going to be centric around cycling and experiences and building community. Yeah, how do we re-engage? How do we do that in a way that I think comes back to exactly what you're talking about, which is seeing the humanity in people first?
Yeah, I'll back up just for a second on the mural topic. I don't know much about the mural topic. You and I talked about this like a week ago or whatever. Right. We were in Colorado the whole time this thing was going on. I didn't know it was going on. I didn't really have I have a peripheral knowledge of what happened. And maybe it's good that I don't know what happened because I can walk in the door and say, listen, why didn't both sides compromise on something?
Yeah.
Keep the mural up in a way. Listen, again, this is my ignorance talking because I didn't go watch the city council video. I haven't seen it. But like in my simple brain, I'm like, okay, one side doesn't want it. The other side does. How can we come to some sort of compromise to keep it there? Because it is a beautiful message. All bikers welcome. That sounds pretty good to me. You know what I mean? All people welcome. Everybody's welcome. That sounds like a good message to me. Now, again, I don't know the specifics. I know a few, but I also don't want to speak to it because I don't want to speak wrongly here. But listen, there's going to have to be compromise on both sides of every coin.
Yeah.
In every community, in every church. I keep saying church. I grew up in church. In every workplace, in every facet of life, whether you live on a commune or you live in LA, there's compromise, right? And I just feel like no one's willing to compromise in today's day and age. We've picked our sides. We've drawn the line in the sand. We have our red lines, and those aren't to be crossed. And I just feel, I know there's two parts to this question. I've already forgot the second part, so you have to remind
I'll
me.
get you.
But I think that this is what I was taught as a child. And I'm not perfect. I lose this sometimes in my day-to-day life, okay? But let's just say I'm sitting across from you, Mike, and you disagree with me on something. Let's say it's a moral matter. Let's just say it's a moral matter.
Well, I would say you probably shouldn't be running a 42 on your front chain ring. So if you want to start there, we can devolve into whatever that conversation
Let's say that's an existential question right now.
Do you believe in
Exactly,
the ability of a 42
Yes, I know.
T chain ring to power your life?
That is funny. I do have a 42.
I know you do.
Sometimes it's too big.
I have a 42 also. It's too much for me.
It's too
but
much.
Keep going.
Yeah, for sure. Especially out in the Newton County.
Yeah.
But here is my moral compass, okay? And it's very simple. If you disagree with me, Mike, and you disagree with me on a very moral issue, right? And let's just say that I believe that you are morally wrong. Guess what? I still love you.
Yeah.
Simple. That's it. I still love you as a human. I still respect you and even your viewpoint, even if I disagree with it like vehemently. And I think that if that's written on everybody's hearts or on your dang mirror in the morning or whatever, right? My wife, Jackie, and I, we argue all the time. We're both super type A, right?
Yeah.
I'm very type A. She's maybe even more type A. But the funny thing is, even if we're in this really difficult argument about something like, we may not be able to come to terms on this one. The second one of us says, you know what? I still love you. I still love you. This makes me want to cry almost. It changes everything, dude. You know what I'm saying? And why can't we do that with everyone else? This is bothering me.
Yeah.
That our community and our country is falling into this trap of hating each other. It's got to stop. At some point, it's going to have to stop. So, what was the second part?
We were supposed to talk about some cycling
Oh my
topics.
gosh, let's get to that. Oh gosh,
I don't know.
This is heavy.
I don't want but it's. I think
heavy
this
for
is
me, dude.
This is the core of it. I think the question that I have been trying to answer or exploring, for lack of better words, has been, what does it look like for us to reconnect to our place in a way that that we feel like we belong and we have this vested interest in making sure that the things that we do and the way we make decisions, that they're for this place and that they're for other people.
Yeah.
And you're clearly there, right? And
yeah.
I think we see this, I always say this, like, I think in some ways we want to have these really in-depth conversations. We want to have some end-all be-all solution for solving all of the world's problems. We want it to fit into the model that we feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, it's a lot of what I've always loved and respected about the work that you're doing is that it really is pretty simple. And that to draw it back to these places of what does it look like to wave to other people across what is an assumed divide between maybe a rural and urban community or agrarian society. And I think for me, it's found in the simplicity. And frankly, I don't think we can talk about that enough. And we can't be reminded of it
for sure
either.
Yeah. These really are. I didn't mean to come in here and talk about. I thought we were going to talk about cycling for a long time.
We'll talk about. I do have some.
We're going to
practical questions.
I don't know how many people have turned off yet, but that's okay. I think these things need to. I think these conversations need to happen. And listen, we don't have to agree on everything. Like you said, we shouldn't. We're humans. Like when I just told you I'm a political centrist, I will vote for whoever I think is the right person for that job. Right. I don't give a crap what their RD. I could care less. Do not put me in a box. You will never put me in a box. I'm not in a box. I'll fight out of that box. Yeah. But guess what? If you vote different than me, that's okay. I don't care about that either. I care that you and I have some common beliefs. We both love to ride bike. I believe in freedom of speech because I get to sit here and talk to you about how I feel without repercussion from my government. Okay. And so these are like these little common beliefs that I think almost all of us can agree on here. Let's start there.
Yeah.
How about that?
I mean, maybe let's get practical for a minute because I think as we talked about, there's some things that do work itself out in the everyday coming and going of who we are as people in a community. And I think one of those things that I'm a huge fan of Arkansas Rural Recreational Roads.
For sure.
That you were at the heart and the center of helping to create and get started. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer in the ability of that to really expose people to our community, connected with the land. But I know some of the things that you've had to deal with early on in that is just some friction between
For sure.
people who look at each other, that maybe they look at each other and you look very different.
Yeah.
And you've had some success there. And I think it's carried into the culture making, especially in gravel cycling of, I know when we go out with our group, everybody, without hesitation, the wave that you've asked people to adopt has been adopted, right? And I think with Arkansas R3 now, that's moving over into the Ozark Foundation. And
Yes.
I am curious, what should we expect? What are your expectations as you see this move into a new organizational structure? Mike Spivey and the group at Ozark Foundation is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you could give us a little behind the scenes on how do you see that as a continued tool, or what
Sure.
are your expectations for that?
I guess maybe we start with the reason it moved over there. The Ozark Foundation is a dialed organization with Mike and Brandon and all that crew, and Julie and the whole crew. I don't want to leave anybody out. They are dialed in what they do. They're very good at what they do, and they have more resources. And that was really the deciding factor. And let's let them carry the torch. They'll be able to expand. They'll be able to run it a little bit better. They're going to bring on Bobby Finster.
Oh,
Dude is
amazing human.
awesome. Yes.
Amazing human. We need to get him in here and
Yes.
talk.
And listen, one of the cool things I like about Bobby he's great with people, good bike rider. He's all these things. But guess what? He's from rural
That's right.
Arkansas. And so he's got this story. He's got this ability to relate to people who I think that we need to be more in tune with.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like a no-brainer. Whoever over there brought on Bobby was, it was a killer move. And I think they did an amazing job on bringing him in. And so I think they'll be able to expand. I think someone up in Michigan is doing the rural.
I've heard about that.
Arthur
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
So it is catching some steam. And so that was the reason why I think it was, let's let them carry this torch. And quite honestly, personally don't know the inner workings of what's the future look like, but I'm interested to hear. I hope that I really would love to see them pick up these rides out to farms and where we can have these like face-to-face conversations with the people that live out on these roads that we're riding on. Because I think that's really where the difference is made. That one awesome one that we did with Wes.
Oh, amazing.
I still talk to Wes every week almost. We text all the time.
I know, and I'm always like watching his Fix It or Keep Farming videos.
Isn't that amazing?
I don't know how he knows how to do what he does, but it's amazing.
See, that's where social media is great.
Yeah.
Obviously, social media sucks in a lot of ways. But like Wes Evans's Should I Fix It or Give Up Farming?
Yeah. It's great.
It's great.
It
dude.
restores my faith in our
I know.
humanity, right?
And dude, he'll text me Spotify playlists that he's listening to while he's out baling hay.
Doing the work.
Dude, we're buds, man. I love that guy. He's the best. And I think people like that, listen, I was closed-minded and he was closed-minded before we became buddies. Think about that. How many more times can we make that happen over the next few years? I think that's where Arthur should go, and I hope that's where it's going. I think it probably is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm biased. I love it. And I do feel like where we started this conversation with the divides in our community, if that's not the only divide, and I'm not saying it has to be a huge divide, but if there is distance between community members or misunderstandings, or we can't slow down enough to at least listen to each other, I'm a huge believer in what R3 can make possible from creating spaces where, maybe we can start our conversations from a different place. And the work is there. We were on a ride earlier this week and, we had an apple thrown at us, right? Or one of our, not to me, but to one of the person that was riding with us. And, like an apple at 40 miles an hour is not an insignificant thing. So we are just running so hot as a community.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
That for some reason, like I've had more people yelling at me on a bike. We haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that wave and that approach can take the temperature down, I think the cycling community has a real opportunity to lead in this space, frankly.
Yeah.
So I think R3 can be a great tool in all of that.
I think that, and if I could add to that, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to give you two sides of this. The first side is I'm going to add on to what you just said. I've been flipped off a lot lately.
Yeah, I have.
And what's interesting is the two times that I've been flipped off most recently has been by cars coming towards me.
Yeah.
And they're flipping me off in their front window.
It's just the default.
I'm literally just minding my business riding down the road. I'll start with that.
You're not in anybody's way.
I'll start with that.
Yeah.
The third time I got flipped off was on Ford Springs Road. And this is, I'm not proud of, but I want to say how I acted because this is how we should not. So I got flipped off Ford Springs Road. And I was with a couple buddies, and this was maybe a month ago. And they flipped me off as they were passing. So they passed by us. And so I figured I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to say this. So I sped up.
Yeah.
And I followed them to the intersection of Ford Springs and McNelly, and they got stuck behind a couple cars.
Yeah. They don't realize how fast you're going.
And so Andy Chasteen pulled up next to them, and I knocked on their window, and I asked them to roll their window down. And it was a man and his wife, I don't know, maybe in their 50s, something like that. And they rolled their window down, and I proceeded to verbally abuse them for doing that.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel good, flipping someone off like that? Do you like that? Does that make you feel good?
Yeah.
Call them a few choice names. And can I just say, that is not what we should do.
Right. Yeah, I'm guilty of the same thing.
Listen, that really does happen rarely with me. I'm not a confrontation. I actually hate confrontation. Right. I'm not that kind of human. But for some reason that day, I just felt the need to do it, and I shouldn't have. And eventually they just pulled off because they had their way to go. They never said one word back to me. But guess what happened? They left thinking that we're all assholes because I was to them, when I should have really just waved. And that's it. I should have just waved.
Let it be.
I should have let it be. And I don't want anybody to think I'm a perfect human, because I'm not. I do that from time to time. But that sometimes is why we get flipped off, is because of what I just did.
Yeah.
And I think that is, we all should be. Some people are a little bit more hotheads than others. I get that.
I go from 0 to 60 real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an embarrassing story for me to tell, because that's not who I am as a human. But sometimes what we do is not who we are, for all of us at times. But I think I just wanted to tell that story because I preach this, hey, wave at ever, be kind all the time. Listen, I'm not perfect, okay? I fall into that as well. But what I did, those two people will look at cyclists differently forever because of me.
Yeah.
When I could have just waved at them, and they probably would have looked differently because of that. Now, let me tell you the other story.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a story. Keep going. Yeah. Tell that story.
So I'm going to try to redeem myself here. But it's probably about a year ago. Me and my buddy, Pat Zimmerman. Everybody knows Pat Zimmerman. He's a legend around here. Yeah. We were out, I would say northeast of Gravette, maybe a year ago, just riding gravel roads. And we came up on this like red, I don't know, it was like a country car. They were coming our direction, and you could see in the distance, as we were maybe like a football field away from them, they pulled off onto the side of the road. And I was like, okay, what's going to happen here? Are they like pulling off to let us pass, and they don't want to dust us, whatever? And so we get closer, and as we get closer, I wave at them, and then we just keep going. But the second we get like about even with them, I hear this voice, y'all want a beer? And I wasn't planning on stopping, but Pat Zimmerman's tires skid. Like, he hits his brakes, and you can hear the gravel just skidding. And I'm like, I guess we're stopping. And so we stop, and come to find out, I hope there's no law enforcement. No, listen to this, because these guys were doing what oftentimes people do on these way back road gravel roads. They got a beer in their hand, and they're just out for a little slow roll drive. So anyways, we stop, and these guys were like, hey, you guys want a beer? And I didn't want a beer at the time, but Pat loves beer. And so we said yes. So they pull out a couple Busch Lights, and we proceed to sit there and talk with these guys for, I kid you not, 45 minutes or so. And one of them had just gotten out of prison. He had prison tattoos all down his arms, on his neck, everything. But they were somewhat blowhards and like, hey, we like to float the Elk River, but I'm always getting in a fight and beating somebody up because people don't know how to act out there. Anyways, so we talk about all these different things, nothing about bikes. Right. We don't talk about bikes the entire time. And 30, 45 minutes in, we've drank our Busch Lights, and it's time to move on. And I'll never forget this. I don't remember exactly what we talked about that whole time, but this I do remember. As we're pulling off, the driver goes, man, we usually dust guys like you out here, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. You guys are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, listen, it's face-to-face conversations, talking to people, treating them with respect, no matter who they are, where they come from, what socioeconomic background they have, doesn't matter. And that was a good lesson for me for waving at people wherever you are, taking the time to talk to people where they're at in their place, maybe even in their life, right? And so I hope that redeems me a little bit for the first story. And one other thing I always tell, my daughter's 15 years old, and I'm trying to guide her in the way to becoming a really good human being as an adult. And I tell her this constantly. Again, it's simple truths, right? The simple truth is when you come into a conversation with someone, and I tell her this, you always want to leave that person feeling better at the end of that conversation than you found them. And listen, is there a better way to live life? I don't think so.
No.
And I probably told her that hundreds of times over the years. And I didn't leave those people in a better place than I found them, the people that flipped me off on Forward Springs Road. But I did with these gentlemen. And those are two contrasting interactions. And I think the answer is clear on which one is the correct one.
Right.
Unless you don't drink beer, then don't drink the beer.
Yeah. What I hear. Yeah. What I hear, though, is, hey, maybe we can move past what our outer appearances may form those opinions. And like I heard someone say with social media these days, I can go see your social media feed and I can know everything about you, except I don't know you.
I know.
And so you're starting those conversations at a different place with a different maybe lens and different filter. And I think it's a great reminder. I love that story because it's a reminder and an encouragement that, man, if we can just slow down a little bit, that, yeah, there are opportunities to really build some bridges. And who knows where those will go? Maybe on one side, you've got, hey, I wish I could have a do-over on that. But on the other side, you're like, man, who knows what confrontation has been avoided for the future for those guys, maybe, that they're not going to dust the next people and lowers the temperature a bit and where we're at as a culture.
I think so. And again, listen, I'm not sitting here pretending to know the answers to everything because I don't. And most of my answers are super simple, right? I'm not this complex thinker. I'm just not. But there are a few simple things that we can put into use in our day-to-day lives that will make other people's lives around us better. And how else can you make change in the world, especially if you're just one human, unless you become a part of this big group that's like changing the world on this large scale. Most people aren't. Most people can change the world one person at a time in one-on-one interactions every day. And why can't we all do that?
Yeah, I think it is as simple as that. We had an opportunity. You and I talked after I had a chance to sit down with Kyle and Kyle at the Ozark Podcast, where they had a couple conversations about cycling in the Ozarks and maybe these divides that we're talking about. They sat down with a friend of mine, Dr. Jared Phillips, who's a historian, also leader of the Ozark Studies Association, farmer living in this agrarian world. But those conversations have been hard. I've had a chance to sit within those spaces a little bit and to hear some of where they're coming from. But I think for a lot of people in the cycling community, I let my whole cycling group listen. I asked them to listen to these conversations. And there's a really mixed bag of reactions and listening to some of those. And I'm curious, what do you take away from that? Or where do you think that starting point is? Or what are the implications for some of those conversations for us?
Yeah, I have to be honest. When I listened to the pod with Jared Phillips, I'm probably not proud. I was offended. I was quite offended by what he said. And some of it is just because I know the cycling community and I don't believe that his version of it was correct. You know what I'm saying? And so there was like this immediate like defensiveness. Sure. Obviously, that's like kind of human nature, right? And then if I'm being honest, the two gentlemen that do the Ozark podcast, I love that podcast. I actually listen to a lot of the hunting ones. I think that pod is awesome. But I thought to myself, screw these guys. They don't know the story. They don't know us. They're closed-minded. And that was my truly initial reaction.
Think you're alone in that.
And I'm not proud to say that, but I had a text thread going with some buddies of mine, and I was like, man, this is why we get hit with apples. You know what I'm saying? By cars passing, or flipped off, or whatever. And then I had the opportunity to listen to your pod with them, and phenomenal job, by the way.
That's really kind.
You did a really good job of allowing these guys to think and understand the other side of the coin and see some nuance in the subject, right? Are we perfect? No, we are not perfect. Cyclists are not perfect. We obviously have our issues where we can do better, obviously. But I think that you did an amazing job. And I also really appreciated those two being understanding and being willing to see the other side of it. I see those two gentlemen completely different now.
Yeah.
Whereas I was offended. Oh, they're closed-minded. They hate us. After that podcast, I was like, I respect those guys for listening to another side, being willing to at least change their point of view in a way, or at least being able to understand the other side of the conversation. And I can't tell you how much better I feel having listened to that second podcast, knowing that at least they got to listen to another side of the story and to understand where we're coming from as cyclists.
Yeah.
And listen, I understand their conversation and their arguments around conservation and things like that. I get it. And I've spent a lot of time understanding and trying to think, okay, where could cyclists contribute on the conservation side? And I don't have the answer to that yet.
Yeah.
I just don't. But I will say, I left that podcast with them thinking, okay, progress was made. And that's all we can ask for, right? And then we make more progress later. And maybe the R3 helps with this.
100%.
Maybe that comes in. Maybe there's a link there, right? Maybe we get Bobby on there eventually. I know they're moving into the hunting season. I get that. I totally get it. And we can pause on that. But I think there's a way, in all ways, not just this one, we should be able to coexist.
And I would say thanks. And credit to Kyle and Kyle they didn't have to.
They did not have to.
They didn't have to open that up, but they care deeply about this place. They care deeply about the Ozarks.
You can tell they do.
They care deeply about people. Yeah. And I think it's a good opportunity to step into these conversations that we're talking to lower the temperature.
Yeah.
And we may not have started in a great spot, but if we can walk away seeing each other that maybe not everybody's the way that I think they are, I think this is where the work that you've been leading, I think, has been really helpful. I mean, I walk through those conversations thinking, gosh, can we make it simple about how do we acknowledge and see the humanity in everyone? We talked about the wave a little bit, but I think those are the spaces that we have an opportunity as a cycling community to build bridges within other communities and to lower those temperatures in a way that can help us build this community in this space of the Ozarks, maybe in a way that I don't know, maybe that's not happening as much as we would like it to happen. And I do think, like, thinking about our Arkansas R3, great opportunities. We should all sit down in a room together and we should have conversations about what does it look like to build relationships, and people like Wes or Jared or Kyle's coming in and sitting down. I guarantee you, if everybody was sitting at a table together, we would walk away with everyone hugging, patting everybody on the back. And so I think these spaces just don't exist very often in our community. And so I think it's imperative. I feel like, Andy, you're one who does this all the time, but I'll sit at a table with anybody. And so if we can start that from a different place, then I think there's good things that are going to come out of it.
I just still think that, let's say that we never make any progress with this, let's say this tension between, let's say, hunters or the folks who live out on the gravel roads that we ride and us. Let's just say that we never make meaningful, we can't come to this agreement on whatever the topic is. We can still agree that we're all humans and we all want the best life that we can have, and that we want the best life that other people can have as well. I think that is enough. That's the thing. That's enough. Even if we disagree on other things. Listen, I think there is progress to be made. But even if there's not, I think that is enough, right? It's enough. And that's what that's what I really wish people could, like, just get in their brains. We're not going to agree on everything. And there's going to be some important things that we don't agree on. That's okay.
Yeah. It's not an excuse to let it devolve into.
It's not. And I think that progress should always be like, we should strive for progress. And I think that we should really go after this with the R3 thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, even if we don't make progress on it, like, I think it's enough that we're all human beings, and that's enough. We don't have to hate each other. I don't have to yell in someone's car window at them And they also don't have to flip me off.
Well, and I would say, too, you have a place down in Newton County, and you're riding down there a lot. You're creating events down there. So you are a part of that community in many ways, too. And
I've met a lot of great people on those roads out there, man. Like, I've stopped and had conversations with, I had this amazing, again, I don't know how long we want this podcast to go, but I met this guy.
Keep going.
I met this guy up on, I don't know that I want, yeah, I'll say it. I met this guy that owns some land up on Keys Gap in Newton County. And he was out on the road, and I think he stopped, and I think I was on the side of the road on my bike, stopped for some reason. He stopped and said hello, and we got to talking, and he's, yeah, man, I moved here from New York 50 years ago.
50 years.
Yes. And I was like, man, you've been here for a long time. And he's like, yeah, they still don't consider me a local, which I thought was so great.
Yeah.
There is that, you've talked a lot about the history of Arkansas. And like, I've learned about a lot about it in Newton County. You are not considered a local unless you have like grandparents in the cemetery there, or maybe great grandparents. Like, don't quote me on that. I'm just saying that is how ingrained historical history and culture is there. Like, it's really interesting to learn these things from people. And this is also a really crazy, obviously polarizing topic. And I don't mean to go all over the place, but it's funny that I'm learning all these cool things about people that I didn't know anything about, right? And I think you and I may have talked about this before, but back when they were talking about the designation of the Buffalo National Park or whatever, and there was the uproar, the people didn't want it. And the argument, I think one of the arguments was like, your property values are going to raise. And I heard so many locals out there saying, I don't care. I'm passing this down to my family for generations. We don't want our property values to increase, because that's more property taxes. And I thought, duh, I'm such an idiot. I would have never thought of that, because I live in the city and I want my property to increase in value. And it's like, we don't understand other people's point of views if we're not in their shoes. And we will never understand their point of views unless we ask.
That's right.
So like, almost on a daily basis, I feel like a dumb because I wasn't thinking from the point of view of someone else. And maybe we should all be that way.
Yeah, I walk into those spaces with a posture of learning. To me, what does it mean to belong to a place?
Yeah.
There's people in this region, in the Ozarks, that can really have something to say about this.
Yeah.
And I think when we care about this place as much as so many people do, it changes our posture when we're out on a bike riding through these communities. We see people differently. They mattered
that's right.
in a way that maybe we don't give them credit for. We're not there to fix anything. And I think that was the spirit of the conversation, the Ozark podcast. It is, and we take that posture of seeing each other and what we have to learn from others in a way that, can be really helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think we could sit here, and I honestly believe we can't hear this enough. We can't talk about this enough, of seeing each other, as human beings first.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate that. And I think the way that works itself into the cycling community really, there's some opportunities there that I think can really be a healing place and a place of unity for our community. And so I want to lean into that as much as I can. Tell me what you got going on for this next year. I know you have this mountain bike race that you call Rule 3, I think is what it is. But that continues to be an incredible success. I know you've got the Death March of Newton County. Is that what it's called? The brutality.
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's the next year look for? What are you looking forward to?
So Lauren and I always like to say, Rule of 3 doesn't happen without Lauren, because she does all the work. Rule of 3, again, I'm a broken record. I say this all the time, but Rule of 3 is really a hobby of ours, or a hobby of mine. I have a real job, obviously. Yeah. Rule of 3 is a hobby, but I used to put on a climbing event. I'm still involved with it. It's one of my best buds runs it now. And these events that I've put on I'm always biting off more than I can chew, but they really are, for me, they're like this cool time to bring loads of people into one place together, right? For this feel good, happy, good time. Maybe this is your chance to escape your stressful life for a week or whatever, right? And so that has always been for me, the impotence of putting these events on. We have Rule of 399 coming up, but see, that's not till February, so that's a ways off. But Rule of 399 is this really cool, we call it a free event. It's free-ish. It costs you $43 to sign up. And if you show up on the day, you get your $40 refunded. And the $3.99, that's the bike reg fee that we have to pay. So basically, we take $0 and any money, so we give you your $40 back when you show up. But if you don't show up, we take that $40 and we give it to Pedal It Forward.
Which is great.
And so it's like this fun day where we send you out on these couple of heinous, obviously, Rule of 3 routes. And it's in the middle of winter, so the weather usually sucks. And there's usually like 600 people or something.
Yeah, it's almost like you plan for people not to show up, I think. This is the fun rate. As I listen to you, I think I'm on to you here.
And the beautiful part of that, and I'm not trying to like pressure people into this, but even most people who show up, they say, keep my $40, right. Give it to Pedal It Forward. I think Pedal It Forward is one of the coolest organizations in town. They exist to put people on bikes that otherwise couldn't have them. And I think that is such an insanely cool.
Yeah.
So I believe in what they're doing. And so what we do is we give, there's no administrative fees. Sometimes you get those little secret administrative. No, we give them every single dime that we keep from people donating, whatever. And so I think it's usually in the realm of, I don't know, $15,000 or something like that. So anyways, that's a super fun weekend. And then we have Hazel Valley Rally after that, which is a really hard day out in the Ozark National Forest, which is super cool. And that one's really fun. And then obviously the main event in May is Rule of 3. You like to call it a mountain bike race. Shame on you.
You have yet to convince me otherwise, although I did see an announcement that you're going to add some more gravel to it.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe that's an admission if it's too much of a mountain bike race.
Yeah. So every year we send out a survey, right? Yeah. We ask people, because I always like to say, obviously I own the event, but I don't want it to feel like I own the event. I want everyone who comes to feel like they own a little piece. And in order to feel like you own a little piece, you should feel like you have a say. So we always do a survey and we ask, how could we do it better? What are things that we could do? Whatever. We had a bunch of people say this year, your t-shirt sucked this year. And I was like, dang it. I thought that was the greatest shirt we have ever had. What a terrible idea I had, apparently.
Terrible human being.
I know, yeah. The shirt this past year said, I conquered the Rule of 3 and all I got was this lousy tee.
Yeah.
And apparently a bunch of people didn't like it. So whatever. Anyways, we won't do that again. But so we had some feedback on too much trail, things like that. And so Laura and I put our heads together and we were like, we also asked on distances and things like that. And so we put our heads together and we came up with, a lot of people wanted to see maybe a longer 50-miler or like even a shorter distance for people who wanted to dip their toes into the Rule of 3 experience. And so we decided to come up, I think what we're doing is like a 35-miler, a 60-miler, and a 115-miler. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to add a little bit more gravel to these distances. Okay. And most of that gravel is going to be in the front end so that there's less bottlenecks in the single track. Which, listen, I want people to be able to have the best experience they have. And some people do get bottled up in the single track. And that I get gutted because I know that really upsets me because I really want people to be able to like achieve their goals that they have for this event. I could care less if they get on the podium. I want people to have goals and achieve them, even if it's just a finish. But some people have time goals. And if you have a time goal and you're sitting in the single track for 5 minutes waiting on like 100 people in front of you to get in, you're not getting a clear shot at realizing your goals. And so we're going to try to stick all that front end gravel on the front end of the course so that it's much more spread out once you hit that single track. And then the 35-miler will be really cool. We're going to call it like Rule of 3 Light. It'll have maybe 2 miles of single track and it'll be super mellow.
That's really nice of you to think that's what you're going to call it, but we'll be the judge of this thing, Andy.
Yes. And I think this past year, I would say that we probably did have a little bit too. I ride the courses and I always had this sinister smile on my face because I'm like, people are going to be so pissed at this spot. At this spot, they're going to be so mad at me. And I want that, right? I want people to have an unforgettable day. Even if it's terrible in the moment. We know this. You know this. You've been on these rides.
I have. I know.
So like I've been on these rides where it's the most horrible day all day long, but it's the one I remember forever, right? And so I get stuck in this rabbit hole of it's got to be the hardest ever. It's got to be the hardest ever. When in reality, it just needs to be hard. It doesn't need to be the hardest ever.
I don't know who the psychologist is, but they always talk about these dimensions of ourselves, like it's the things you know about yourself and that others know about you. And then there's the things that you know about yourself that nobody else does. And then there's things that everybody knows about you, but you don't know about yourself. And we know this, Andy.
Oh my gosh.
We know that this is at your heart. No, in all seriousness, all the events that you do are just world-class, and they're amazing. Community building, culture building, accessible to people. And if I could only do those events in Northwest Arkansas, that's a gift to the entire community. And so really thankful for you and Lauren and all the work that you guys do to bring those to life, because it really matters and it's really beautiful.
We do love putting them on. And listen, actually, let me rephrase that. I don't like putting them on. I just lied to you. I don't like putting them on, but you know what I do love? I love the results of them. And the results after the event makes it all worth it, if I'm being honest, because I love seeing those smiling faces. Listen, I've been flipped off at the finish line, but later those people come back and say, that was the best day. Yeah. They just didn't think so in the moment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. We could talk about that forever.
We love it.
Andy, give us a word to finish this conversation up. How you,
I'm just thankful you let me spew out all of my pent up emotion today.
Anytime.
I talk about these things with friends and stuff at times, but I think more people need to find commonality in each other. And if we could do that, I think we'll be all right. I really do. I think we'll be all right. And thank you for letting me come on here and
thank you.
Literally steering this podcast way off course from the very beginning. So thanks.
You did not. I think this is what we're here to talk about, right? These are real things that are happening in our community. And I think we're looking for people who can help us make sense of it, but also help us process it. And ask the hard questions and challenge us to continue to become the community that we want to be. And I think you are a community builder and you are part of that. And so I think your wisdom and just the energy that you bring to it's a serious thing. So I think it's time to take things seriously. And so I'm really thankful that you'd come in and be as open as you have been about the things that we need to think about, and to maybe challenge us all to say that at the end of the day, this is about the human being in front of you. And I don't think we can talk about that enough.
Yeah. I love this city and I love this state. I love this country. I really want to see us thrive. I really do. And again, I don't have the answers, but I think there are a few little things that we can all change to make this steer maybe in a better direction. Thank you.
Andy, you're welcome anytime. Thanks for coming and sitting with me. And
thanks,
appreciate you so much. Well, my incredible thanks to Andy for joining me again and continuing to challenge and inspire the cycling community here in Northwest Arkansas. What we've heard in this conversation is that cycling is not just about bikes or trails or events. It's about the people. It is about who we are becoming as a community and whether we will use cycling to draw lines between us or to build bridges across those lines. The fractures we see in our national dialogue are not far away. They are here. They're moving through our own neighborhood and, yes, even through the cycling community. The heart and soul of Northwest Arkansas is being tested. Cycling and the arts have transformed this region, reshaping not just our landscape, but our identity. Yet the deeper question remains, will these movements become commodified, reduced to events, marketing, or tourism? All of those are good, but we would hope that they would become instruments of belonging, places where we can practice inclusion and extend welcome. The All Bikes Welcome mural showed us just how high the stakes are, because it wasn't only a debate about paint on the wall, it was about whether our community has the courage to live into those words, that everyone is welcome. Andy reminded us that belonging requires more than just our words. It requires kindness, humility, and the willingness to see each other first as neighbors and fellow riders before opponents. It requires leadership that refuses to mirror national polarization and instead chooses to model welcome and repair and a generosity of spirit. It requires each of us, whether we are riding gravel roads, city greenways, or mountain trails, to practice this simple act of connection, to wave, to greet, and to make space for one another. So the invitation is before us. The cycling community in Northwest Arkansas has already changed the way the world sees this region. And now we must decide if we will also be a part of helping to change the way that we see one another. If we will help heal divides and strengthen relationships and create a place where belonging is not simply a marketing message, but a lived reality. I want to say thank you to Andy for your vision and your leadership and your just brutal honesty in this conversation. I think it's something that we all can take note of and begin to practice. And for everyone else that's listening, I want to say thank you for being the most important part of what our community is becoming. This is The Underview, an exploration in the shaping of our place.